this is our brand new 2023 Super Duty F350 Lariat with the standard output 6.7 Power Stroke diesel. We didn't get the high output because, to be honest, if you are in a situation or you have an application where 1,050 pound-feet of torque is not sufficient for you, then you're one of about 2 or 3% of all of humanity, maybe 1 or 2%. For what we're doing, again, I think it's 475 horsepower, give or take, and 1,050 pound-feet of torque is easily all we need. You see the grille, and we're not really a fan of the new look, but to be honest, this is far from the worst looking Super Duty grille in a 2023. The Lariat Ultimate, I don't know if it's the Lariat Ultimate that gives you this grille or the Lariat or what it is, but you got your cab clearance lights. You got your air dam in the front that comes down very low and it gives you less than a foot of ground clearance. Aluminum rims that look similar but not identical to the Alcoas. The F450 has rims that look a lot more like an Alcoa rim. The color is white, as you can see, just because that's just how we prefer our vehicles. It's a more plain looking color. The tires are Michelin's and they work very, very well. We're a big fan of Michelin tires. You got your straight axle in the front, as you do with all Super Duties, 2- and 4-wheel drive. We prefer an independent front end because it gives you much more accurate steering, much more on-center feel, and much more comfort, but you just can't get that in a Super Duty. However, given that this truck is now available with a lane centering system, which we call self-driving, you don't have to spend all your time on the road fighting with the truck to keep it in the lane. It's a dually, and it's got obviously your dually fenders, which are replaceable without having to replace the entire bedside, which is nice if you ever damage those dually fenders. Dual exhaust, nothing much to say about that. The bumper now has your bumper corner steps, just like in a Chevy, and your bedside steps. Gigantic Class 5 hitch, and these hoops are so big, these loops, that you can fit your hand through them, which is nice. We've got the tailgate step, which is a brilliant, brilliant invention on the part of Ford. Spray and bed liner. It's got the puck system, which is your fifth wheel prep, your fifth wheel gooseneck prep. On this side, you got the Pro Trailer backup assist. Actually, no, that's a 7-pin connector. Just like the 7-pin connector you have here, you also have a 4-pin connector, which you don't have in the F-150 Power Boost or Power Stroke, the ones that we had at least. That is your Pro Trailer backup assist connector right there. And then on this side, you have your Pro Power on board. Unfortunately, for some reason that is yet to be explained, the Super Duty only comes with a 2.4 kilowatt, 120 volt AC Pro Power on board system. It does not have your 7.2 kilowatt, 240 AC Pro Power on board system, and it only works when the engine's running because there's no hybrid battery. So it's not going to power the appliances in your camper, but you know, we'll take what we can get. We got the sliding back window. We do not have the sunroof because, as far as we're concerned, it's an unnecessary accessory, and it's just going to start leaking eventually. Got a nice big opening there for the trucker nozzles, so you can fill up at the truck stop, and you got your DEF filler right there. Nice and easy. 48-gallon fuel tank, which is brilliant because it means you have a very, very long cruising range. And if you're driving through a state that has a very, very high gas tax, as is the case where we live right now in Pennsylvania, you can wait until you get through the state and top off in a place like New Jersey, believe it or not, which has a much lower gas tax. The property taxes will kill you, but at least the gas tax in Jersey is a lot lower. Again, we got the Lariat Ultimate package. It's keyless entry, keyless ignition, and that's nice. You just don't have to mess around with your key ever. You just leave it in your pocket. The window switches are what they are. The mirror switches are what they are. You got 3 memories. You got telescoping and folding, power telescoping and folding mirrors, which are nice because that way you don't have to leave them extended all the time when you pull into a very tight parking spot. We got full digital gauges, which we weren't really a fan of. We've been growing up in the 70s and 80s. You saw the worst of the worst when it came to digital gauges. and they were just absolutely horrible, especially the ones in the Japanese cars. And like the Buick Riviera, for instance, absolutely terrible. But these aren't that bad. And oh, by the way, in this particular truck, you've got a heads-up display, so you never have to look down at the gauges, and that's nice. Your controls are identical to the ones in the F-150 here. Maybe not quite as low. I feel like the ones in the F-150 were even lower. They were like 6 inches lower, so you couldn't even see them hardly. But that's your light controller. You just leave it where it is. I think that's like the heater for your mirrors. There's a bunch of little stuff you don't really have to worry about. The steering wheel, very, very well laid out in terms of the controls. This arms and activates your cruise control with one button. Accelerate, decelerate, cancel, resume. This controls your following distance right here for your adaptive cruise control. And this button right here turns on and turns off the lane centering system, which to our knowledge is the first self-driving system ever installed in a heavy-duty pickup truck. And we've said on numerous occasions that the first manufacturer, the first OEM that put essentially a self-driving system in a heavy-duty pickup, we would run, not walk, to the dealer and get it put on order immediately. We've driven it last night, we've driven it today, and it works exactly as advertised, and it will drive your truck for you over the course of hundreds or thousands of miles. And then all you have to do is sit back and hold the wheel and supervise, and it reduces your workload by 90+%. That's your volume control. I don't know what that is. Maybe your voice command control. These buttons right here control the menu and the various functions in your dashboard, of which there are a great many. Left and this skips you up and down in your audio. This enters and hangs up your phone. Beautiful 12-inch screen, just like in the F-150, and it works as advertised. It's got full screen CarPlay, just like the F-150 eventually wound up doing. A column shifter, which is the way God meant for it to be, with your plus and minus buttons that you can use to lock out upper gears when you're in drive mode, and then when you put it in manual mode, using that button right there, you actually shift up and down with those buttons. It does not have the stupid and ridiculous console shifter like certain versions of the F-150 has, like the Sport package, for instance. And it also doesn't have that ridiculous dial shifter like the Ram, the light-duty Ram has. The center console is nice and big. It's gigantic. It's got a ton of space in it. It's got 2 USB-C outlets, which is a change from the F-150, which has a USB-A and C. You also got a USB-A and C here in the console. You've got a wireless charging pad for your phone. Sorry you can't see it that well. Actual audio controls, a volume knob, a tuning knob, and then temperature controls for your dual zone climate control. There is a button for almost every function, so you don't have to mess around with that screen when you're going 70 miles an hour on the highway. Brilliant. It also has heated and cooled seats, which are nice. It might have a heated steering wheel, which we really couldn't care too much about. You see the difference there between this and the F-150 to where the 12-inch screen flows immediately and seamlessly into your instrument panel, your gauge cluster. And it does not have its own separate sort of hooded area and then like a little dent and then a hooded area for your gauges. It's all one unit. And to be honest, it looks fine. You get back in the F-150 and the F-150 looks fine also. It's, we're kind of indifferent between them, and we're not really too much into that non-functional stuff anyway. You got an upper glove box, you got a lower glove box, just like in the 21 and newer F-150. 2 cup holders, and if we hadn't filled this thing with junk, you could see that there's a section which slides to the left and creates 4 cup holders for you, which is nice. And which is not an option on most of the F-150 trim levels because of that stupid and ridiculous console shifter that's sitting there. The seats, again, it's a nice looking color scheme. It's got a little bit of fake wood there, but for the most part, it's a black and tan leather appearance. Very, very nice looking. And one of the reasons we got the Lariat was for leather seats, for the reasons we've discussed in the past. Rubber mats over the carpets, but there is not a carpet delete. Power running boards, as we stated before, which we really couldn't care less about, but your seat folds all the way up and out of the way when you're not using it, which is nice. Again, keyless entry, keyless ignition. We're a big fan of it. Those bedside steps are nice. Keeps you from having to like step up on the tires when you're messing around with your whatever's in the bed that you have to deal with. Again, we did not get a sunroof because the sunroof is a waste of your money, and it eventually ends up leaking, and then the motor eventually ends up breaking anyway, and then it gets stuck in that open position, usually right before it starts raining torrentially on you. We like the chrome appearance there. We don't like that blacked out appearance that a lot of the young people tend to prefer. But again, it's a very expensive truck. It's an extremely expensive truck. You pay as much for a brand new dually as your parents paid for their first house, or maybe as much as you paid for your first house, or maybe the house that you live in now. And it's such a huge outlay of cash that there's no reason to do it unless you have a compelling and urgent need to do so. For us, we drive tens of thousands of miles every year. We put 44,000 miles on our F-150 with the Power Stroke diesel in the first 14 months that we owned it. And so we have a need for a truck that is extremely safe, extremely reliable, will not leave us stranded on the side of the highway somewhere. And in the case of the new Super Duty, it can pull, give or take, a 30,000-pound trailer, and it's got that self-driving system. So when you're doing a lot of 800-mile days, as we tend to do, you can do it in safety and comfort. And that to us makes it worth it. Makes it worth the 4-digit car payment that you will be paying when you buy a truck that's this big and this expensive. We can talk on a different occasion about why we didn't get the F450, and that's a whole nother discussion that we'll get into. But we're very happy with the F350, and we look forward to putting a lot of heavy usage on this thing. Talk to you later.